HOA Karen parked on my ranch without asking, so I welded the gate and took a vacation to the coast. Have you ever come home from the farmer's market to find a stranger's SUV parked beside your chicken coop engine off, doors locked, and no note like your ranch was just a public rest stop? Because that's what I saw, and I knew exactly who was responsible. Karen. More specifically, Deborah Karen Langley, the self-proclaimed president of the Oak Ridge Meadowlands HOA, which, by the way, ends 3 parcels east of my gate. She's infamous around these parts. Tall hair, loud voice, beige windbreaker 2 sizes too small, and that face like she's permanently sniffing spoiled milk. And fat. 2, she waddles with every step like she's dragging the weight of her own ego. This wasn't the first time she trespassed, but it was the most brazen. There it sat, her silver Cadillac Escalade, squeezed next to my garden beds, blocking the service trail I used to haul hay to the back barn. No phone call, no permission, no note, just a vehicle on private land, like she was entitled to the soil under my boots. I stared at the dust on the windshield, and my blood started to simmer. Then I checked the trail cams. Sure enough, there she was, Karen, waddling out of her SUV just before noon, stepping over my property line, snapping photos of my fence line, garden boxes, and even my solar panel setup. She tried the barn door locked. Then she strutted toward the oak grove like she owned it. It was textbook Karenism. No shame, no respect, just entitlement in orthopedic shoes. And then she left her car there. I waited until 8 p.m. No sign of her. So I made a decision. I grabbed my portable welder, a length of rebar, and a single padlock, and I sealed the damn gate shut. 2 solid welds across the latch mechanism. Enough strength to hold a bull, let alone a Cadillac. Then I hung a sign from the gate that read, "Private property, unauthorized vehicles may experience unexpected delays." I tossed my weekender bag in the truck and drove south to Monterey. Ocean breeze, clam chowder, and 5 full days off-grid with no cell service. I didn't even bring my ranch phone. I figured if she wanted to use my land like a parking garage, she could enjoy the scenery. I came back that Sunday evening with a tan and a bag of smoked oysters. What I found when I pulled in my own driveway was glorious. Karen was still there, sweating, fuming, face blotchy red and half-baked from the sun. Her SUV's battery was dead. Her phone, fried from the heat. She had no signal, no shade, and no water. The plastic jugs I leave for the horses were empty. Her makeup had melted into streaks like war paint. And the best part? She tried to escape. There were scratch marks on the inside of the gate where she'd attempted to file the weld down with a nail file one I assume she pulled from her purse. It gets better. As soon as she saw me roll in, she stomped toward my truck with that furious Karen gait, clipboard flapping behind her like a cape of victimhood. "You trapped me," she shrieked. "I'm filing charges for unlawful detainment and sabotage." I stepped out, looked her in the eye, and said, "You mean trespassing on my deeded land, past 2 lock gates, with a vehicle registered under your HOA's stolen budget." Her mouth dropped. She didn't know I knew. But here's twist number 1. While I was gone, I had asked my cousin Hose, a retired county assessor, to pull up the plates on the Escalade. And surprise-ite was listed under Oak Ridge Meadowlands HOA General Fund account, meaning she'd bought it with community money the board never approved. So not only was she trespassing, she was doing it with embezzled property. She tried to pivot. "I was inspecting your perimeter for unauthorized developments. There's a trench near your fence line that could affect drainage in our HOA." I nearly laughed. "You mean the irrigation line I installed in 2018 2 acres outside your jurisdiction? I'm still authorized to enforce appearance standards." That's when I pulled out twist number 2. I opened the bed of my truck and brought out a metal briefcase. Inside, a cease and desist letter I'd pre-written 3 months ago, notarized and signed by the county recorder, clearly stating she had 0 legal claim over my land, and that any further entry would be considered criminal trespass. She lunged forward and tried to slap the paper out of my hand. Big mistake, because my neighbor Drew had been watching the whole time from his property next door with his drone hovering overhead, filming everything. The slap, the attempted phone grab, her screaming about sovereign enforcement power. Within 10 minutes, 3 sheriff's cruisers rolled up. Karen didn't even try to talk her way out this time. They had a file on her already 2 open complaints from other landowners, one of whom caught her on camera pouring bleach into their pond to combat mosquito violations. So when I showed them the footage, handed over the notarized order, and explained the welding job, one of the deputies looked at her and said, "Ma'am, you're lucky he didn't tow the car into the lake." She tried the tears, though I didn't know. The heat stroke excuse. It didn't work. She was cuffed on the spot for criminal trespassing, property interference, and suspected misuse of HOA funds. And that's just half the story. Karen's wrists were cuffed, her face streaked with sweat and shame as the deputies read her rights. I stood by the fence post, arms folded, watching her crumple just like the paper-thin authority she'd been clinging to for years. But the justice didn't end at the gate. Because what Karen hadn't counted on, what she never expected, was that the HOA itself would turn on her. The very next week, Oak Ridge Meadowlands HOA called an emergency open meeting. And folks showed up. Oh, they showed up in droves. Every homeowner with a bad memory, every family Karen had harassed, every veteran she'd fined for flying a flag too large, every gardener whose daisies were not HOA-approved color tones, they all came. And they brought receipts. Emails, screenshots, voicemails where Karen threatened to place liens on homes for leaving garbage bins out 10 minutes too long. One woman played a voicemail where Karen barked, "Your toddler's sidewalk chalk is a violation of property uniformity, wipe it up, or pay the $40 fine." But then came the bombshell. Karen's misuse of the HOA budget wasn't just the SUV. She'd spent over $19,000 in one fiscal year at a chain called Chair Republic. Guess what she bought? Custom engraved patio furniture, all delivered to her own backyard. She claimed they were visual testing samples. The HOA treasurer broke down in tears. She told me the new chairs were for a clubhouse event. I didn't know she meant her house. The vote to remove her? Unanimous. The HOA itself? Dissolved by the end of the week. The county issued an order nullifying Karen's remaining authority, freezing HOA funds, and launching a full audit of her actions going back 5 years. It gets better. Karen's case was picked up by a regional news channel that did a 4-minute special titled, "When HOA Power Goes Too Far, Ranch Owner Turns the Tables." They even used drone footage from Drew Slow's Zoom over the Welded gate, dramatic music, and a clip of Karen yelling, "This land is technically part of the community commons," right before getting stuffed in the cruiser. By the time her court date rolled around, Karen had become a meme. People in town made T-shirts that said, "Weld it like Weston," and "Trespassers get vacations." I stayed quiet through it all. I didn't gloat. I didn't rant online. I just fixed my gate, repainted the porch, and donated the footage rights to a nonprofit that teaches rural property owners about land rights. The court sentenced Karen to 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, and mandatory psychological counseling. She was also banned from participating in any future HOA leadership in the state of California. She tried to appeal. She lost. Escalade, repossessed by the HOA's insurance as misused property. The HOA board, before dissolving, voted to gift it to my ranch as partial restitution stripped of its luxury, fitted with a winch and trailer hitch. Now hauls feed. A few weeks later, I held a small gathering on the land. Neighbors came. Folks who'd once been too afraid to wave back now shook my hand, brought pie, helped paint the new gate sign. And on that sign, carved into redwood, it reads, "This land is private, protected, and finally at peace." And beneath it, a smaller wooden plaque, burned into the grain with my branding iron. "Karen parked here once." And that's all anyone needed to know. Sometimes justice doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it's steel on steel, silence on the road, and a gate that swings closed with the quiet finality of truth. So now I ask you this. Was I wrong to weld my gate shut and take a vacation? Or was that the only way to teach someone who never heard no what boundaries really mean? The end.